new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation point. This is a podcast based on a blog of the same name because we're all alright! We're all alright! My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out the blog at couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU, exclamation point, hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and via Google Play to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows, including, but not limited to, Doctor Who, Downton Abbey, How to Get Away with Murder, Broadchurch, Once Upon a Time, New Girl, The Vampire Diaries, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Gotham, Supernatural, Game of Thrones, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, American Horror Story, and The X-Files from its inception through its revival. We've taken a look back at True Blood, Ally McBeal, Futurama, Desperate Housewives, and 6 Feet Under, and more episodes are in the works, including new panels covering Stranger Things, new series examining Gilmore Girls, including the Gilmore Girls reboot A Year in the Life and Sherlock, a new entry in our Marvel's Defender series which will be covering Luke Cage, and new episodes looking back at older shows will include Glee. What's more, CPU, exclamation point, from time to time goes live. We've appeared at Comedy Outlet Mondays at Dog Story Theater and at Grand Rapids Comic-Con in Grand Rapids, Michigan, while streaming live on Facebook. More live appearances are being planned, so make sure you like us at our Facebook page, our Twitter, follow us at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, and or our Pinterest at CPU Podcast, or subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, our iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Play. In the meantime, if you don't hear your show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we're always seeking new panelists. So if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any one of those outlets aforementioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback. Just keep it in the circle, man. Keep it in the circle. Today's panel is looking back at an American period situation comedy that aired on Fox from 1998 to 2006. If you aren't already aware, from time to time, CPU will be choosing shows of all types, but usually of some fame or notoriety to reminisce about, and to consider whether or not they age gracefully, like a good vinyl record, or don't hold up as well, such as a keg of beer without a tap. As such, this is another chapter of our Looking Back podcast episodes, wherein we review a show that has been gone, either via natural end or cancellation, for some time. And today, that show is That 70s Show, a series that focused on the lives of a group of teenage friends living in the fictional suburban town of Point Place, Wisconsin, spanning dates from May 17, 1976 to December 31st, 1979. The main teenage cast members were Topher Grace as Eric Foreman, Mila Kunis as Jackie Burkhart, Ashton Kutcher as Michael Kelso, Danny Masterson as Stephen Hyde, Laura Prepon as Donna Pinciotti, and Wilmer Valderrama as foreign exchange student Fez. The main adult cast members were Deborah Jo Rupp and Kurtwood Smith as Eric's parents, Kitty and Red Foreman, Don Stark and Tanya Roberts as Donna's parents, Bob and Midge Pinciotti, and Tommy Chong as Leo Chinkawake. The show, despite its goofy characters and running gags, addressed social issues of the 1970s such as sexism, sexual attitudes, generational conflict, the economic hardships of the 1970s recession, mistrust of the American government by blue-collar workers, and teenage drug use, including underage drinking. The series also highlighted developments in the entertainment industry, including the television remote or the clicker, the video game Pong, Mad Magazine, and Eric's obsession with Star Wars. The show has been compared to Happy Days, which was similarly set 20 years before the time in which it aired. The show also featured guest-starring actors from 1970s TV shows such as Mary Tyler Moore, Valerie Harper, and Betty White, Tom Poston and Jack Riley, Pamela Sue Martin, Tim Reed and Howard Hessman, Eve Plum, Barry Williams and Christopher Knight, Tom Bosley and Marion Ross, Monty Hall, Gavin MacLeod, Don Knotts, Richard Klein, and Jenna Lee Harrison, and Danny Bonaducci and Shirley Jones. So if you can guess where all those people are from, that's just half the fun. Series cast member Tanya Roberts also starred in a popular show in the 1970s, namely Charlie's Angels. Fun fact, beginning with Season 5, each episode in the season is named after a song by a rock band famous in the 1970s. Led Zeppelin was Season 5, The Who Season 6, The Rolling Stones Season 7, and Queen was Season 8. Today, for CPU's Look Back at That 70s Show, we've gathered two familiar voices from down the street to sit in the circle in the basement, where we are now, and wax nostalgically about this show, about the 70s, that started in the 90s. They're ready to ruminate on everything about that 70s show, and it should be noted, though, that all of our panelists have viewed the entire series and may discuss sensitive plot points, sight gags, jokes, or other things best enjoyed by the first watch of a situation comedy. So for those of you who haven't watched that 70s show, listen at your own risk, as there may be major spoilers. At this time, I'd like our small but robust panel to introduce themselves. Those who are loyal to CPU should know the drill and how we do this. I'm going to ask each of our panelists to identify themselves by their first name. That's all we need. First name. And how you came to watch that 70s show. Tell us what made you start watching. How did you find out about it? What kept you watching? Did you watch all 8 seasons? And how would you rate your interest in the show? And because we're looking back today, I need you to give me an answer for how you felt at the beginning of the series and how you felt at the end of the series or wherever you stopped watching. Are you ready to rate your interest, panel?
Yes.
Okay. So after you introduce yourself, tell us where you are, beginning and end, with that 70s show. Did you feel that it's better than Star Wars and G.I. Joe and Spider-Man? You love it so much, you may even love it more than the feisty, red-headed girl next door. And that's saying something, my friend, like Eric Foreman. Did you think it kicks ass and takes names like you do, with either man or woman, every single time? Plus, it speaks to your feminist ideals, and or you think the dorky boy next door main character is kind of cute, like Donna Pinciotti. You just think it's so adorable! Even though you don't understand the new generation and their rock music and other shenanigans. Also, you might need to drink to enjoy it, like Kitty Foreman. You didn't quite know what was going on with it because you started watching it as a last-minute replacement, but hey, you were happy to be a part of the team, like Randy Pearson. You watched it because your neighbor watched it, and watching it along with your neighbor made you feel like you had a friend, like Bob Pinciotti. Despite the fact that you're lowering yourself to watch it, as it's full of poor people, you realize that watching it and the poor people on it is better than not watching it and not having any friends at all, like Jackie Burkhart. It gives you needs, and so you bid it good day. You said good day, like Fez. It's better than falling off the water tower. Again. Burn, like Michael Kelso. You don't give a crap about it. You'd much rather partake of the circle. Also, there's a car that runs on water, man, like Stephen Hyde. You can't stand it because it's full of dumbasses, like Red Foreman. You didn't watch it or didn't like it because you were too busy whoring around town to care, like Lloyd Foreman. What's in that 70s show, like Midge Pinciotti? Or, hey, man, you think you left your TV in the photo hut, which burned down, man. Why? Because reasons, man. Who wants to sit in the circle, man? Like Leah Chinkawake. Who would like to start?
I'm Kristen.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi.
You're very familiar to us.
I am very familiar. This is probably my 800th podcast with you, Kylie. Well, thank you. I love being here in the basement, in the circle. How did I come to start watching that 70s show? I started watching it because one of my best friends was watching it at the time, so he kind of introduced me to it. So I will say at the beginning, I'm going to kind of interweave these. At the beginning, my interest in the show was like Bob Pinciotti because I watched it because my friend/neighbor watched it. And then it made me feel like I had a good friend. But I ended up working through all 8 seasons when it was on Netflix. So yeah, it kept me interested. I think at its high point, it was like a Donna. To me, I thought it kind of kicked ass and took names. And I thought the dorky boy next door is kind of cute because that's typically my type. But towards the end of the show, I kind of dropped down to a Kitty, but mostly a Randy. I didn't really know what was going on in season 8 because they lost a lot of the main characters.
And that's ironically when Randy came aboard.
I know, that's perfect. So season 8 was kind of a misstep, but at least it ended on a high note with the season finale. So I think that answers all the questions.
I think so.
It's a little hazy in the circle. So.
Well, welcome back, Kristen.
Thanks, man.
Hi, I'm Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Hi.
Kelso?
Yeah, well, I do. My last name does start with a K, but I'm not quite as dumb. So, yeah. I can remember watching the first episode when it first debuted in 1998. I was like, what's this show? What? This kind of seems... I'll tune in because I'm morbidly curious. And then I was like, kind of shocked by it because I was like, I can't believe they're doing this on national TV, which is kind of weird in 1998, but I guess I was surprised by the drug humor and the frank sexual talk. So I didn't really watch it that much afterwards, but then I've come to it in the sense that when it moved to syndication, it was always on, like right after The Simpsons or right after something else I was watching in syndication, and be like, oh hey, it's that 70s show, and I would end up watching it afterwards. So I think I am definitely on the kitty aspect of your question. Like, oh, it's so cute. Not cute, but like, it's
adorable.
I find it mildly funny, and I will be like, I will watch it.
And you need to drink to enjoy it?
Yeah, well,
that always
actually,
helps.
It would help.
With most television shows, it helps.
So yeah, I feel like that's the way I felt about it when I started watching it in syndication, and now, so yeah, I'm on the kitty spectrum. I'm very team kitty.
Beginning and end?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Well, welcome back, Michael. You might recognize Michael's voice from our Futurama podcast. That's when he last appeared. And, of course, my name is Kylie, as I've already mentioned.
Hi, Kylie.
Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Kylie.
Hi, Michael.
I'll do that, too.
Okay. And it's kind of funny about that 70s show. When it first premiered, I didn't watch it because, judging from the previews, it looked pretty stupid to me. I'm just going to say it.
At least you were old enough to watch it when it first premiered.
I don't know how I feel about that comment, Kristen.
I was 12.
Oh, well.
A little too over my head.
Okay. Well, yes, I was older at that time. Thank you for pointing that out. And
you're welcome.
I was the right age for the characters on the show. I was 15.
Oh, very good. I'm not going to say what I was.
That's okay.
I'm the oldest in the room. I was the one born in the 70s. There, I said it. Anyway, I saw that it was coming on. It's obviously not your most intellectual comedy ever on the air, and I didn't really have any immediate interest in it. I didn't know who anybody on the show was. So it's kind of funny because the way I discovered watching it is that my youngest brother, Colin, shout out Colin if you're listening, he loved it. He just thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. To this day, it's one of his favorite shows, and there came a point at which I moved home from college, and it was probably season 5-ish. I distinctly remember it was when Hyde got with Jackie, because I knew they weren't supposed to be together, and I was like, what's going on? And it was on the TV, and I had to watch it because I knew something was amiss. I was sure that loud girl was with the dumb guy, and that wasn't what was happening. And then I started watching it, and lo and behold, it actually turned out to be funnier than I initially prejudged it to be. In fact, I immediately took to the character of Hyde, and then secondarily to Foreman. Foreman I'm probably most like in real life.
Oh, yeah. Me too.
Yep.
Me too. Totally.
Yep.
Hyde, though, he's very, sarcastic and cool.
You have that too.
Okay, well, great. That's a weird combination, but I will take it. Yeah. So I enjoyed both those characters, and I kept watching. When Eric and Kelso, namely Topher Grace and Ashton Kutcher, bailed, which is what led into the 8th season, I did sort of fall off and didn't watch it because I thought it was clearly a jump the shark moment. Like, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah.
They're continuing this without 2 of the main characters. That just seems to me to be a really dumb decision. And as it turns out, it was the death knell for the show, and really they should have ended it at the end of season 7, but we'll talk about that. But I did eventually catch up on all of it and have rewatched it. As Michael mentioned, this has been in syndication ad nauseum for a long time, and it's uber available on your streaming site, so eventually I just watched the whole thing, and ironically it's now become one of my all-time favorite shows. Like, it's one of those comedies that I can revisit and enjoy, and not have to pay too much attention to, and it continually makes me laugh. And we'll talk about where the things make me laugh, but that's kind of the evolution, long-winded evolution of how I came to that 70s show. So when I first started, I would say that it was better than falling off the water tower. Again, burn! Like Michael Kelso, because I thought it was potentially dumb. And now, at the end, having watched all 8 seasons multiple times, I'm at the point, I can't say it's better than Star Wars, that goes against my very religion, but I will say it kicks ass and takes names every single time, and it speaks to my feminist ideals on the occasion. And I do think the dorky boy next door main character, i.e. Topher Grace playing Eric Foreman, is kind of cute, so I would be Donna Pinciotti at the end. And that is where we are. So today we are looking back at that 70s show, which, as you know, if you've listened to our other Looking Back episodes, it's not going to be about a hyper-analysis of season by season. It's really talking about the show in general and what impact it had for us, and what we thought about it, whether we liked it or hated it. Let's talk about the show in general. What did you love? What did you hate? Get as general or as specific as you want to get.
I very much like the characters on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the show is, in general, what you would call a hangout show. It's not the type of show that you tune in for, it's searing commentary on life or whatever. But you enjoy the characters and their jokes and their rapport, and I think that's got great dynamics between Eric and Donna. And the banter between Kelso and Jackie was always hilarious because it was so stupid but really funny. And I actually am drawn a lot to Kitty and Red. I don't know why, but I've always loved those characters more than anything else. I love her bubbliness, and I love his approach to the teens and calling them dumbasses all the time. I don't know, I think they're an interesting couple, and I just like the Foreman family dynamic of the show. As a general comment on what I like the characters.
Yeah, I agree. I like that there wasn't any real strong, season story arc or even show story arc. It was literally taking them through the decade of the 70s. So you could pop in, you could pop out, and you could still kind of know what's going on. I agree with Michael. I definitely think the characters are what made it for me. As I got more into it and started really watching the episodes in order, because I forgot, I did catch a little bit on syndication, but when I really started my deep dive into Netflix and watched them in order, I started to realize, hey, this could be like my friends if I grew up in the 70s. And then I had the realization that was probably my parents and their friends in the 70s. So, yeah, that was a weird moment, light bulb for me. But yeah, it's definitely something, I don't know, even though I didn't grow up in the 70s, I can relate to a lot of the same things, which is kind of fun. And yeah, I love the character dynamics, the banter, I love the relationship between Donna and Eric. I liked Jackie's evolution of who she was when she dated Kelso, and then Hyde, and then Fez.
Because she did date all of them.
She dated all of them. Well, the only reason she probably didn't date Eric was because he left, and he was not in season 8.
He went off and did Spider-Man 3. I think he regrets that every day.
Bad choice.
I was just reading somewhere that was it was on a list of movies that have ruined people's careers.
Well, he hasn't done. We'll talk, I'm sure, but he hasn't done much since then. I don't know. Bad choice. Which is weird. I mean, this is completely off topic, but he was perfect for that character. But it was just a bad movie. But anyway. Yeah. Anyway, I also, because I'm such a dog person, Shotzi. I loved Kitty and her little dog Shotzi. That just warmed my heart. And then also, anytime Kitty was drunk, I love Kitty, and I hope to be her when I get to be that age. Especially when she just made the picture of, the blended picture of margaritas and was just drinking it straight with a straw. I have drank large amounts of alcoholic beverages with a straw out of a very large container, so I can relate to Kitty on that. Yeah, I'm classy. But I love Kitty. She's probably my favorite character, period. Adult and kid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Kitty makes it for me. If it would not have been Kitty Foreman in this way, I don't think I would have liked it as much.
I cannot say that Kitty is my favorite. She's not my least favorite. I mean, I don't have this surprising amount of adoration that the two of you have for her, though. It's kind of interesting to me. But then again, my favorite character is Hyde. So I don't know. What does that tell you?
It's not a surprise, though, knowing you personally.
Okay.
I'm not surprised that
it makes perfect sense.
You like
There's
Hyde.
a car that runs on water, man. It's not his only joke, but I
like that that's one of the recurring gags, though.
Yeah.
It's just every time there's this car that runs on water, man, and the government's hiding it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he's blitzed his brain again. So of course
again.
he forgets that he had the conversation.
Yeah.
But I agree with both of you. Really, what draws you in with that 70s show in the end is the characters. I think, Kristen, you were the one who said it. It's like these could have been my friends that I hung out with. They very much remind me of sort of the neighborhood kind of aspect of growing up, and especially growing up now. I'm not anywhere near their age. I actually did the math, and I think these characters would be 6 years younger than my parents in real life.
Wow.
They were all born in like the early 60s, according to the wikis online.
Yeah,
exactly. So I think that, obviously there's still a generational divide there, but, I was a child of the 80s, and there was still very much that neighborhoodness and kind of the stuff you don't really see nowadays because the world isn't as safe. Like, people left their doors unlocked and, coming in and out of your walkout basement, I mean, that literally happened. And so, and there were also people that I knew that were a lot, like, I can't point to anybody specifically, but I feel like I've known the type that is Eric, or the type that is Kelso.
Oh, yeah.
Me too. A lot of my friends from high school would fit the bill for these characters.
So that ultimately, that's the draw, I think, in the end for a lot of people, is that, the situations themselves are pretty thin, if you think about it. They usually revolve around drugs or growing up. Those are the two things.
Yeah.
Or growing up in the set, going to concerts. They do a lot of
a lot of concerts and.
Or going to Star Wars in the case of Eric.
Yeah. Movies in general, because they went to like the drive-in a couple, didn't they?
They did.
Time or two, and
yeah,
and then like getting their first jobs. It was like you said, it's a lot of growing up,
coming of age kind of stuff.
Seemed like a lot of things that they did were, hey, I've heard this is a really cool thing to do. Let's do it, and then it would fail miserably because it's
climbing a water tower, falling off the water tower.
Big ideas, and the other guys just encouraged him because they knew it would, fail spectacularly,
and they'd be able to laugh at him,
and he'd get to wear the stupid helmet.
Yes. Oh, the stupid helmet.
The stupid helmet, which, as I understand, Ashton took with him.
Makes perfect sense.
Nice.
I hope he has it in the house that he now shares with wife Mila Kunis and their 2 babies.
Yes, if you don't keep up on the entertainment rags, they are in fact married with 2 kids now. Their second child they just had.
I didn't know they were married. I knew they were involved. Oh, wow. That's really cool.
They got married after Wyatt was born.
Yeah. Their daughter.
Their daughter.
Wait, Wyatt's the girl?
Wyatt's the girl.
Wyatt,
oh, okay.
Isabel or something.
I don't know.
It's a very feminine middle name to counteract the Wyatt.
And then the son has a fairly unusual name too, but I can't think of what it is right now.
It's only been a couple of weeks.
To that end, I know that my dad, who has recently passed away, which I will say because I've made mention of it on social media at this point, so he really loved the Red character because of the fact that he called everybody dumbasses, and I think he was calling people dumbasses for a while as a result of that. I don't know, I did want to mention the Spider-Man 3 thing, because I know that's off topic, but it's probably going to come up again, because Topher Grace, I mean, he's fairly funny. He's a really good physical comedian.
Perfect Eric Foreman. I mean, I honestly feel like he was the character that drew me to the show most. I think that I really took to his relationship with Donna, and anything that was about their relationship, I was like, oh, I'm all for that. But I guess I feel like I'm one of those types of people that wants those 2 characters to always be together. Like, not like, I mean, like those character types in a show. If, like the Wonder Years.
Power couple.
Yeah, exactly.
The girl and boy next door to fall in love.
Yes. Yeah, definitely Eric is one of the best on the show.
He is, and I can't really blame him for taking the job of Spider-Man 3. I mean, it was a big budget feature film at the time.
He was capitalizing on his popularity to make some extra money.
Yeah.
He was, and as you said, it's not really his fault.
He was perfectly cast because he was the perfect level of snark for that character. I mean...
But I think from a girl perspective, he was also the perfect level of attractiveness for that character, too. He wasn't...
And he's very similar to Tobey Maguire, which is what,
which is part of the character, because Venom is a foil for Spider-Man. So,
but I was also talking about Eric Foreman. He was perfectly cast.
Oh, yes.
Because of the
that too.
Nerdy guy, handsome level,
I just, it's not your fault, Topher, but it was career busting because I actually think it was poorly written, poorly directed.
Yep.
And that's on whatever his name, Raimi's fault.
Sam Raimi?
Yes. But unfortunately, Mr. Topher hasn't recovered, which is kind of sad.
But he should not despair because they're now in their third incarnation of Spider-Man. And they're hoping that this one works.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with either of them.
It doesn't, but it's just trying to make him feel better.
Oh, okay.
Like they had to try and make it work multiple times because it didn't work the first time around, kind of thing.
Or the second time, now they're on their third time. So, Topher Grace.
Okay.
Old college try.
Come back to movies or TV. Come back to TV.
Did you?
Yeah.
Come
back to TV.
Come back to TV.
He's one of the few that hasn't made a return to TV in some way.
He hasn't.
Everybody else has... Yeah. Whether they're on a Netflix show or a network show.
Wilmer's on NCIS.
Yeah, everybody's made a go except for Topher Grace.
Yep.
Well, let's go through it. Wilmer's on NCIS. Laura is on Orange is the New Black. And
Ashton Kutcher was on 2.5 Men
but
the
now
last couple.
He and Danny Masterson
are on The Ranch on Netflix.
They play brothers, which, P.S., is totally like that 70s show set in the mountains.
I should watch that. I will make a note, watch it.
I don't think Mila Kunis ever came back to TV. She really
transitioned.
She's
still the voice of Meg.
Oh, that's
right.
Meg.
She's still the voice of Meg. She's really focused more on movies, and she does the Jim Beam commercials now, so she's technically still on television.
I guess, you're right. I forgot about Family Guy.
I think Family Guy is more than that, technically.
And she's on Live Good. Is it like Robot Chicken or whatever? Is it the Seth Green thing? She's always on that.
Because she's such good friends with
him.
All of those people,
So that was going to be one of the questions later on, but we can kind of segue into it since you're mentioning that. I mean, obviously, that 70s show was wildly popular when it was on, and it launched the careers of the younger actors on the show, with the exception of, and that's only because she ended up passing away, the girl who played Lori Foreman. She had a drug problem, and that consequentially affected her, and she's no longer with us. But the 6 teenage level actors all had some measurable level of success following this show, with the possible exception of Topher, just because his success was short-lived and crashed and burned. Did you follow them to their other projects that we proceeded to list here? And if so, did you do so because of that 70s show?
I mostly followed probably Laura Prepon, however you say her name, and Mila Kunis. Just about every movie that Mila Kunis has been in has been a pretty decent movie. And I think she's a great actress. I mean, I remember her in Black Swan just being ridiculously amazing. And she's a great comedian. Like, she just has great timing, and she holds her own with anyone she's with. So I really have been following her. Like, oh, hey, if Mila Kunis is in it, I'm like, oh my god, I bet it's really funny. And I was really interested in Topher Grace's career. I thought, when he was transitioning to movies, I was like, oh, that's cool. And I remember other movies he was in that he was actually quite good in. There was that, what was the name of that movie that he did with Dennis Quaid, where he was like an executive that was trying to, I can't
marry his daughter?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
I know what you're talking
vaguely
about. I can't think of the name.
Yeah, and he was like, but anyway, that was a pretty decent movie. And then...
just no big budget hits.
Yeah.
No big profitable movies for him.
I've seen bits and pieces of that Win a Date with Tad Hamilton movie that was
I watched that. That one, that was cute.
Okay, yeah.
He played Eric Foreman.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's his type.
But of course I remember Spider-Man 3 and just being like, oh...
disappointing.
You were totally underused, and it was a bad movie.
I was just thinking that same thing. He was vastly underused.
Yeah, and I've never been a huge fan of Ashton Kutcher. I'm going to put that out there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of didn't like it.
Silently judging you right now.
That's fine. You can do that.
Well, you might want to judge me too a little then.
I know.
I was like, Michael Kelso was a funny character, but it seemed a little one note at times with the whole idiocy thing. I mean, he grew eventually with becoming the police officer.
They needed to.
Becoming a father, which I thought was a good arc for him. But I never really liked him in any of the movies he was in. I didn't really like 2.5 Men at all, and I didn't understand why he was on the show when they brought him in.
Well, he just
doesn't rock my boat or whatever.
Yeah, he was only rutted to 2.5 Men to keep it from being canceled when Charlie Sheen left. Otherwise, because it was like one of the most popular shows on CBS, and they needed somebody
they had to keep
bring
going.
in. Yeah. I mean, Ashton Kutcher, he's never going to win an Oscar. Sorry, Ashton. But I mean, a lot of his stuff, it's more lighthearted. I mean, like I need to watch The Ranch. If that's still on my to watch list as of 5 minutes ago when I added it. But I mean, some of his other movies were okay. But I, like Michael, I follow Mila Kunis. I pretty much whatever she's in, like Michael said, it's going to be pretty funny. Whether it's, I've loved the one movie she was in. I think it's Friends with Benefits, where she's with Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
I love that movie. It's so cute. But yeah, I followed her pretty closely. Laura, not so much. She was on a TV show pretty soon after that 70s show. I didn't really watch that, but I really like her on Orange is the New Black.
Oh, she's great on that show. Oh my
She's
God.
Fantastic. Who else? Red was on Resurrection of Short-Lived.
Oh yeah,
that's right.
He's been in a ton.
He's a character actor. Yeah, he's been in a lot of stuff.
But it was fun to see him do drama after doing that 70s show. I thought he was very good on that show, but of course it wasn't a great show, which is why it got canceled. Kitty, what's her?
Well, she did Friends prior to that 70s show.
Friends. Yep, I liked her on Friends.
She played Phoebe's sister-in-law.
Yeah,
the teacher that married her
half-brother. But she was but they touted her return to television as a TV mom pretty heavily. I forgot what the show was. It didn't last very long, but it was on either ABC or NBC, I think. It was pretty funny, but it didn't get the ratings, and so they canceled it relatively quickly. Wilmer Valderrama, not so much.
Yeah, he hasn't really done...
He was on like a reality, like a Yo Mama battle kind of show or something on MTV.
Well, he was on that show where they made the cars fancy.
Yeah, or something. He was on something like that.
They remade your cars. So
like Pimp My Ride?
Yeah, kind of like
Pimp My Ride? Okay, I didn't know he was on
maybe, I don't know. He was on something on MTV. And
Wasn't that him?
I didn't watch that.
I have no idea.
Well, Pimp My Ride was Exhibit.
Oh, never mind.
But it did keep going long after it should have ended.
I take it back. I don't know. I stopped watching TV a long time ago.
Whatever reality type show he was on, didn't really watch it. And I'm not an NCIS person, so I haven't really followed him. Hyde hasn't been in a ton.
No, not really.
No. Is that everybody?
Pretty much, yeah.
Didn't Seth Meyers play Randy Pearson? Is that right?
No, it's not Seth Meyers.
His brother.
Okay,
Josh Myers, thank you. So, no, I haven't seen anything else he's done.
Okay.
Full disclosure, I didn't really watch any of the 8th season. And when you said this Randy Pearson person, I was like, I had to look it up. I was like, who the heck is Randy Pearson?
He was essentially a hybrid between Eric and Kelso.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they did to fill the void.
They were looking for that quotient.
Yeah.
Sure.
He's
not bad. No. He did well with what he was given.
In his defense, he was walking into a very awkward situation.
Yeah.
And the fact that 2 of the major ensemble players had left, and they had to try to find a rhythm separate from him, and then he had to fit into that rhythm.
Yeah.
So I don't mind Randy as a character. He ended up being occasionally funny too.
Yeah.
He had a relationship with Donna,
which was awkward.
It was a little weird. But then, of course, they made it a joke of how awkward it was. So it ended up being endearing in a way. He also worked in Hyde's record store because, of course, Hyde finds out that he has a biological father who is, in fact, black.
And has a half-sister.
Right.
Yes.
Which is only important because he's white.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
And then he says, I'm half black. Everything makes so much sense. The fro, the hatred of the man. It's just a great joke. And Tim Reed, who we mentioned in the intro, who is from, if you don't know,
WKRP in Cincinnati.
Oh, I remember that.
Played his dad, and he's hilarious.
He has great comedic timing.
So he owns a chain of record stores and allows Hyde to manage one, and Randy comes in the 8th season and works in the record store before they shut the record stores down. That's another thing. So I thought, he did well with what he could do. That was tough. It was very tough, and what are you going to do when you're that person?
Yeah.
Let me ask you, since we're talking now about first let me mention that since I asked you this question, I should fairly answer it. I don't think that I'm actually per se following any of these actors because of that 70s show, but at the same time, I like them all so much that if I see that they're in something, it's certainly an added benefit. So
that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, so for Orange is the New Black, it's not like I'm a Laura Prepon fan and I watch everything Laura Prepon does. I haven't. But when I saw the previews of Orange is the New Black and I saw that she was one of the characters, in addition to Kate Mulgrew.
Oh, yes.
Red.
Yes, who was Captain Janeway on
I would
Star
say
Trek
Nick,
Voyager.
Shout out to panelist Nick, Captain Janeway.
Which he loves Red, mainly because of that reason.
Yeah.
The previews were enticing by themselves, but the fact that those two women were in it...
It adds weight to the show.
Some
credibility.
Yeah. The Ranch I probably would not have watched if not for the fact that Danny Masterson was in it, because I don't watch things that Ashton Kutcher does. I like Ashton Kutcher. He's fun to watch in talk shows when he's just being himself.
Yeah.
But I don't actually enjoy most of his performances in pretty much anything outside of this show. So I watched The Ranch because they were both in it. I don't know that I would have if either one individually was. Not Wilmer Valderrama either. I don't watch procedurals, so I wouldn't watch NCIS. That's just not my TV preference, which I've stated many a time. So, I just don't think that I purposefully follow these people. But when they're in something, I enjoy them all. It's not like I dislike them. And it's oh, they're in it. That's great. Hooray. That 70s show. Woo-hoo. Let me ask you, now, we have mentioned there's 8 seasons, and we've kind of hit and missed around. Were there any seasons that were your favorite, and any that were your least favorite, and why?
That's going to be a very tough question.
That's a tough one. I think 8 is probably my least favorite season, but I will put kind of a footnote on that and say that I think the series finale was strong. I think that was the saving grace for the season. But I can't remember what my absolute favorite season was. It was probably maybe season 3, 4, or 5, kind of right when it was really in its stride. That's usually my favorites, right at its peak.
Yeah, because I watched it in syndication, I couldn't even tell you what episode is from what season, honestly. I might remember a storyline and be like, oh yeah, I remember that episode, that's a funny one, and I remember that, incident, that bit or whatever, but I won't be able to tell you when in the series it was because, of course, it airs out of order. So I can probably tell you I was more interested in the early seasons than later seasons. Kind of like what you're saying, Kristen, when it was hitting its stride in the first couple seasons.
It was before they all moved into the apartment together.
Yeah.
When the guys got the apartment and Jackie lost her house. And
that wasn't until the 7th.
Yeah, it was all before that. So, earlier.
Although we were introduced to Fenton, the landlord.
Oh, Fenton.
Who also worked in the jewelry store.
Oh, he was a fun side character.
He had a thing with Fez.
Yes.
They did not get along.
And it was comedy gold. I loved Fenton and Fez together. The 2 Fs.
Yes.
Fenton and Fez.
Indeed. I get that, Michael. It's definitely, I think you, in the Futurama podcast, use the phrase drop-in show.
Yes.
It's perfect for that.
It is.
I think I've seen the show enough, I've watched it repeatedly now at this point in my life, so I can tell you kind of sort of what seasons. I definitely like any of the seasons where Tommy Chong is featured heavily. I love Leo.
He was a brilliant addition to the cast.
He's the perfect, first of all, Cheech and Chong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Second of all, all the stoner comedy. I don't partake of this particular refreshment. However, I appreciate stoner comedy.
I will second that statement for the record.
And I love Leo. I love his chemistry with Hyde, and I loved every time. That's kind of where I got the joke, loud girl and dumb guy. That's what he called the people.
Yes.
He's just a lot of fun, and he wasn't in the earlier first couple of seasons. And I don't know if the first season was a little weird. I don't know. Donna had a sister who never came back.
Yeah, that usually happens.
Yeah.
Especially on sitcoms, they were retooling things.
Yeah, the theme song was sung totally differently. I mean, it was a lot of the will they or won't they, Eric and Donna.
Yeah, I'm glad they kind of got away from that. That's overplayed.
It was. I really think the strongest seasons were the ones around will Eric and Donna do it. Was one of them.
Yeah.
That was like third season.
Yeah.
The following season was kind of, they were happy and in love, but Jackie and Kelso were tumultuous. Mm-hmm. And then the fifth season was when she got together with Hyde. Mm-hmm. And I just loved that season. That's the one that got me to watch because I was like, they don't belong together. And all the jokes about how unnatural they were.
Yeah. It was an interesting dynamic.
Mm-hmm. It was. Yeah. And I like that they experimented with that. And they also, I mean, Jackie arguably, for a sitcom character, she probably progressed the most.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
She did.
She really did.
So, she started off as this very shallow, thoroughly unlikable character. I mean, I don't necessarily Jackie.
They made jokes about it early on in the first season. Like, nobody likes her. Like, nobody likes you. Why are you here? Why are you here? Yeah.
I wonder how much of that was Mila Kunis, and how much of it was like, man, she's a really very, charismatic starlet. We need to do more with her.
Well, remember, she was only 14.
I know.
Everybody else was 18. Yeah. She lied about her age to get the part. And
you can kind of tell when you watch those first couple episodes how young she is in comparison to everyone else.
Yeah.
But,
well, unfortunately, they made her character a year younger, so that it kind of played well.
Yeah.
I would say the 8th season is my lead. I think that's kind of an unfair question.
Yeah.
Michael didn't even watch it.
It's true.
It's just so different when you're missing two of the main characters.
It really is.
It's almost like, they knew it was going to be the end. Maybe if they would have had more notice that Topher Grace and Ashton Kutcher weren't going to come back for the 8th season, we could have sped things along to New Year's Eve 1979.
I think they had the notice.
And they just chose not to.
Yeah, see, this was around the time, and they did this with the X-Files. Fox. Good old Fox. When they had a juggernaut, they milked it to death. I mean, really. And
they still do it now.
They still do it now. They keep shows on
like their entire Sunday night lineup.
Pretty much. They keep shows on longer than they should be. So the X-Files, the primary example is David Duchovny left the show. Mm-hmm. I mean, the X-Files is Mulder and Scully.
Yes.
Mulder leaves the show. They keep going. They try to hire 2 replacement agents.
It doesn't work.
And it doesn't work. And then the same thing happened here. They had a ratings juggernaut. These 2, Ashton Kutcher's career was
skyrocketing
like a bomb at that point. Topher Grace was super popular, getting the big budget flick. You can't blame them for wanting to leave, and at least Ashton put in a part-time season.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, that was helpful.
But at the same time, it's like, Fox should have just let it go at that point. They should have just ended it.
End it on a high note,
exactly.
Run it in syndication, and continue to make money off of it.
Exactly. Which isn't to say that the 8th season is deplorable. It's not like the worst thing ever. But it is markedly worse.
Yeah, it's just so different.
It's very different. Very different chemistry. It's just missing 2 of its key ingredients. And half of the reason why the first 7 seasons was so funny was the remaining characters. So like Fez was the punching bag for the other 3 guys, and 2 of those guys were gone.
Yeah. So it just really disrupts the entire dynamic.
It really does. Now, Kristen, you've mentioned the series finale.
Yes.
A number of times and how strong it was. Do you think it was a proper send-off?
Yes. I don't think, for a show that is literally called That 70s Show, you have to end it with New Year's Eve 1979. I mean, and they don't even get, I think they count it down to 2.
Yeah.
And then at 1, then they cut it off. They don't even say Happy New Year, or they may, I don't remember.
No, they flash to the license plate.
Yep.
It's 5, 4, 3, 2, license plate with 1980.
Yep.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. I think that's perfect. It's, you can't go into the 80s. I mean, they literally made the right decision of not going for a 9th season, because it would have been 1980.
Well, they couldn't have, because they tried, actually, at That 80s Show, which was after its first season.
It was an awful, because it was
awful.
Just awful. It wasn't up to the same standards.
Yeah.
And they were trying to make it That 70s Show Part 2.
Such a cash grab, I mean. Just like, hey, let's just make a franchise out of this, and eventually we can do a That 90s show.
Yeah. I think the only person, real quick, the only person that survived that 80s show disaster was Shyler Lee.
Oh, she came from that?
She came from that. She went on to do Grey's Anatomy, and now she's on Supergirl, and she's done a couple other things, too. She's the only person to have survived that train wreck.
Well, good for her.
Good for her.
Good for her.
But,
did you at least watch the series finale, Michael?
I have not.
Okay.
No.
We recommend it.
We do. It's nice. Spoiler alert, they do get all the original people back. Mm-hmm. Eric comes back from Africa. Kelso comes back from Chicago, where he's with the baby mama,
who is played by Shannon
Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
from the American Pie movies.
Yeah, I think it worked really well. You get that sense of hope that Michael's doing well, and Eric and Donna are going to get back together. Probably not confirmed, but you get that sense of hope, which I think is important. If you can't leave everybody with a sense of closure, like flash forward to 1995 and here's what they're all doing now, you at least leave to need sitcom viewers with a sense of hope about the characters that they've really grown attached to over 8 years.
Yeah, I enjoyed the series finale. I definitely think it was an ode to the fans.
But without fan service.
Right.
Which is good.
Pandering.
Yes,
exactly.
Thank you.
At the same time, bringing back all the actors. The final circle was hilarious and touching, and the water car came back.
Yeah, it had to.
It had to. I love, and they did a little bit in the series finale. I love every time they flashed back to when the characters were younger and brought on those younger versions of themselves that did a really good job imitating.
They were
actors.
The casting was phenomenal on that show.
It really was. It was a very good series finale, and you're right. It kind of redeemed everything that happened in the 8th season up until the point, because at least they gave it that sort of send-off that it was hopeful. Now, let me ask you this question, because and I didn't put it in the talking points. Of course, everybody who listens knows we do talking points. There has been a lot of chatter and hope on the interwebs that there may yet be a reunion special, because they have been rebooting, reviving.
It's the new it thing in Hollywood.
It really is.
Very true.
It's a cheap prospect to resurrect a show for a limited engagement and get a big return on investment. And that 70s show, there's been percolating rumors. The cast has been talking about, I would do it. Even Topher Grace, who has been long the grump of the crowd, has started to soften in that regard. Do you think that 70s show would benefit from a reunion special? Or reboot or revival, however you want to look at it?
I don't think it would. I did not know that this was a thing for that 70s show, and I'm thinking about it. It's like, what would you do?
I mean, the show's in the 80s or the 90s or the aughties or the nows, whatever we are.
Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like yes, the characters are a large part of the appeal, but let's face it, the other half of the appeal was the time period in which it was set. And I feel like, it just doesn't make sense to place those characters into any other time period to me. So I don't know, it doesn't seem like... But then again, I don't quite understand the whole revival, reboot, bring everything back thing anyway, because it's like, my immediate question is always, what would you do? And then they find a way to do it, and it tends to work out. So my initial reaction is no, I don't think it would benefit, but I guess it could work. I don't have any insight into how it would.
It's a tough one. Never say never. If they did it, I would like Netflix to do it. And it helps that, 3 of the main cast are already in deals with Netflix right now, so that could help that situation. But I think Netflix allows the creative team to have creative control. Like they took a step back with Gilmore Girls and let the creators run it. They took the step back with Full House and let the creators run it. Fuller House. And it's working. Whether or not those revivals are good or bad, you need to listen to the podcast.
Because they will all be covered.
They will all be covered.
Or have been.
Yes. I think if they did it, not only would they need the full cast minus Randy, unless he's only in it a little bit, But I also think they need to bring back all the creative people. I think the costumers have to come back, the set designers, to show us, where are they living now? Where is the Foreman house gone now? But also a big thing, too, besides the writers, is the director. One thing that I really liked about the original 8 seasons of that 70s show is that they had literally the same director for every single episode.
Really?
Most sitcoms change. Mm-hmm. I think his name is it David Traynor, I think was the director. So. He literally directed every episode. And so it really had that sense of continuity. Mm-hmm. So he would need to come back to really, I think, make it feel the same. Because one thing I noticed that we'll talk about too with Gilmore Girls, it looked and it felt different. Because they had different people behind the camera. So they would need to have the same director come back. But, like Michael said, too, they would need to have a good story. Like, there needs to be a reason why. Why are we checking in with them at this point? What has happened? It still has to be lighthearted and funny. Mm-hmm. We would need to see the circle. We would need to, see all of these characters in a realistic, quote-unquote, situation for them to end up in. But we would potentially also lose the adult cast. They could potentially have passed away between now and then. So as much as we want to see Red and Kitty or Bob or Midge and
Leo.
Thank you, Leo. As much as we want to see them, they theoretically may not be around in the 90s or the early 2000s or what have you. So that's another dynamic to consider, too, that maybe it won't work as well if they can't realistically get all the characters back.
Yeah, it's been okay. I mean, I'm formulating this in my head. It's the creative part of me. I'm thinking, okay, so it's been 10 years since the series ended. Mm-hmm. So you could fast forward 10 years, at which point it would be 1990. However, time doesn't exactly really flow all that.
Right, in TV world, you can do whatever you want.
It was 8 seasons, but it lasted 4 years in show, because it was only like 76 to 1980. So, kind of like MASH in that sense. So, it doesn't necessarily have to take place in 1990. It could be
wherever they have a strong story.
Or it could be, yeah, I could see it maybe happening. Maybe it's like a 10-year high school reunion, or maybe it's a 15 or a 20-year reunion.
And that they could get flashbacks. Like if it was set in the 90s, they could do flashbacks to the 80s to show Jackie with the big permed out hair and take advantage of other big culturally relevant moments. I think it'd be really funny if it was set a little closer to modern day, if they could make it work, to have Eric flip out over the new Star Wars movies. Came around in the late 90s, early 2000s.
If they set it around 1999, that would be hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Reacting to episode 1.
Well, when did they graduate? When did they graduate in the show? What year? Was it 79?
78.
Okay, so if they do like a 20-year reunion,
it could.
And he'd be like, "Hey, Star Wars is coming out next year, guys! It's amazing! I'm so psyched!" Or
but
whatever.
then we have to deal with kids and what would their kids be like, and who'd they end up with, and there's a lot of what ifs that they would have to figure out to make it logistically work. They'd have to do a lot of homework and
that's true.
Setup and.
Plus, it's been 20 years since the show, almost 20 years since the show debuted, so we're talking like 20 years from the 90s, so it's kind of the same thing if it were set in the 90s now. I'm turning around! I'm turning around to it! It could work!
See, Netflix, if we can convince Michael, you can probably make it.
Himself.
I think he
I think he just talked himself into it. So there you go, Netflix or That 70s Show people. Your ideas have been laid out for you. Make it happen.
Call us. We'll collaborate for free.
We'll interview you on the show.
As payment.
We won't take any money for our original ideas.
Just
have to appear on. This sounds a little desperate.
It's just a tad. We are all creative types.
The circle is hazy, folks.
The circle is very hazy, man. There's a car. It runs on water.
Can we talk about the adult circle?
Oh, yes, please do.
That is by far... I love Kitty and Shotzi. This is by far my favorite moment, is when the adults accidentally eat, the brownies?
The brownies, yes.
And they eat the fun adult brownies, and they do the circle, and Red has the can of Ready Whip, and he puts it on his head. I about died. I think I watched that episode the most out of all the other episodes.
Yes, that is definitely a highlight of the series. Yes.
It was a long time coming. I think that was a little bit... I don't want to say fan service because they weren't pandering to the fans, but a lot of the fans had been like, when are you going to get in the circle? When are you going to get in the circle? That's my favorite.
Yes.
Was Midge in that episode still?
I don't remember.
I feel like she wasn't.
Because it was Red and Kitty and Bob.
Uh-huh.
And Leo.
Leo was there.
Yeah.
So I feel like she was probably gone by then because,
yeah,
that whole story arc with, oh, hey, I'm leaving my husband and running off to... Didn't she run off to, like, a commune or something? Or
who knows? I don't remember.
Yeah, she was getting all feministy and asserting herself, but the actress left the show for...
Who knows why.
Oh, Tanya Roberts.
Yeah.
Yep.
Maybe she got tired of playing...
The dumb blonde.
Yeah, the dumb blonde.
Yeah.
With the tight sweater. Because that was what they always talked about. So let me ask you, well, I guess I didn't really answer the question, how would I feel about a reunion special? If they made it, I'd watch it. I don't think they need to make it. They could find another vehicle for the 6 actors to be on. They've already got 2 in one place.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what their plans are for the ranch, and I haven't watched season 2 yet, but hey,
there's lots of opportunities to guest star.
Yeah. And maybe there's some other possibilities that they could consider. Or maybe they could just do some kind of reunion special thing where it's not an episode, but just...
Like what they did with Will and Grace, where it was trying to get out the vote.
Yeah.
Where they had just the little 10-minute mini-sode,
right.
I'll call it.
That could be fun, too. Anything like that. I think it's a show, and that's actually going to segue into my next question. How do you feel about this show now that time has passed? Do you think it's held up?
I think it does hold up,
because
actually.
It's not set in the quote-unquote present, it doesn't show its age. It is set in a very specific time period. The jokes are still funny because they weren't referencing anything modern.
They are still funny.
Yeah.
Part of it is because, well, it's time period based, but also so situationally based.
Yeah.
And some of those situations
it is based
transcend the time period.
They do.
They're based on the characters.
Yeah.
Like sitting around in a circle, or like, there's always going to be a Star Wars movie now that Disney owns it. So
yep.
we can always
one a year for the next hundreds of years.
Exactly. So, there's always going to be situations in this show that you can laugh at and relate to. I think we've covered the question that it was time for it to go, and maybe it should have gone sooner. That 70s show was also, I don't know if you realize this, created by Bonnie and Terry Turner, who also created Third Rock from the Sun.
Yes. I remember that show.
Are you a Third Rock fan, and how does that 70s show compare to Third Rock?
Oh, Third Rock. Oh my goodness. I remember when that show came out, and it was one of the few shows I could watch with my mom, and we both thought it was utterly hilarious. John Lithgow was utterly brilliant on that show, and you could easily do a looking back podcast on just that one show.
And we probably will.
Yeah, and I will gladly be a part of it. You can probably just bring me on for a lot of these looking back ones, because I feel like that was when I watched TV the most, was back in the day. But anyway, yes, Third Rock, I think, is a great show. It's kind of forgotten, I feel like. A lot of people don't really think about it a lot. But I thought it was such a great writing, great all around.
The premise was
character
creative.
dynamics. Yeah.
I really can't give an honest answer to that question because I am the youngest one, but not by much on this panel, and that was slightly before my time. I remember my parents watching it, and I remember bits and pieces of episodes, but it's not one that I have watched really.
I think it definitely that 70s show lives up to Third Rock. I think they're both the same style of quality of good. They both launched careers.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt?
Exactly.
I remember him.
Although, the two, again, this could be for the other podcast, but the two actors that are on that show, I can't remember their names right now, but they haven't done anything since.
French Stewart,
yes.
Yeah, that was
Kristen Johnston.
Thank you.
Hey, she guest starred on Sex and the City.
Well, how long ago has Sex and the City been gone?
Exactly.
A long time.
Exactly.
But still.
At least 10 years, because I remember watching it in college. So.
Right. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's making movies and has a production company.
Yep.
John Lithgow is about to start another pilot.
Yeah, and he was Winston Churchill in The Crown.
And Jane Curtin was great in it.
Yeah.
Well, Jane Curtin
is Jane Curtin.
She's
exactly.
awesome. So she's one of the best original funny girls. I agree with Michael. I think they hold up. They're of comparable quality. I probably like that 70s show a little bit more, just because I watched both shows when they were on in various ways and means, and I just think in the end, that 70s show is more relatable and actually holds up to repeat watching better. I actually did go through the series of Third Rock, and it's not as funny the second time around.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it really isn't. Situationally, there's just a lot of... You kind of realize that they were it's just a lot of hamming.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of hamming on all 4 parts.
That could be a good point, yeah.
And for a long time, I think John Lithgow sort of kind of carried the cast.
Yeah.
But for Jane Curtin, she was her own separate. But then eventually the rest of them caught up and it became this thing and it was funnier. Whereas that 70s show to me
it was like probably a more firm,
consistent.
It was a consistent ensemble.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for that reason, I like that 70s show better. But I agreed that, you know, from a quality perspective, from a quirky premise perspective, you know, they're pretty equivalent. They hold up well. How does that 70s show compare to other sitcoms for you?
I feel like it's definitely, not to diminish it, it's definitely a middle of the road kind of sitcom. I mean, okay, and I don't want that to sound terrible because it's not meant to sound terrible.
But there are a lot of terrible sitcoms out there.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. There's a lot below it. If you think about the vast array of sitcoms that have ever existed, by saying middle of the road, you've got this, it's sitting on a gigantic pile of what I won't say on your show because I don't think you're that type of show.
Oh, well, thank
you. So middle of the road, meaning it's not the same level as, like, say, the prestige sitcoms and dramas that are on, like, nowadays. But it's definitely a huge step above the vast majority of American sitcoms of the last, like, 50 years. So yes, I think it definitely, I think it holds up. I think it's a good, decent show. It's definitely got it's a good sit-down value, pop-in value, whatever. It's going to probably keep staying around based on either the caliber of the actors or the power of syndication.
I think in comparison to current, like, modern-day, quote-unquote, sitcoms that are on the air right now, I think it's better than most of them. I haven't seen all of them, so I can't say it's better than all of them, but...
Now, are you rating that, like, shows like Transparent and, like, the streaming sitcoms that are out there? Or are you meaning, like, Modern Family?
Both.
Okay.
I consider it all, it's TV.
Okay.
It's, no matter what platform you use to get TV, it's TV. I haven't seen Transparent.
I just pulled that one out of nowhere.
Right. But I do watch Modern Family, I watch New Girl, I do watch a handful of other sitcoms, and I think the writing is better on that 70s show. And it could be because of the setting, that they were limited and they couldn't make instantly dated pop culture jokes. But in comparison to shows that are no longer on the air, if they're in syndication, they're in syndication. I don't know where I'd put it because Friends still holds up for me.
Oh, yeah.
I Love Lucy is just, it's still one of my all-time favorites. Well,
I mean,
it depends.
I still love it.
Full House, I think it's a totally different animal than Full House, but I think it's holding up better than Full House because, again, it's set in the present versus set in a time period. So I'm kind of agreeing with Michael where I think for past shows, it's kind of in the middle, but it's on the high end of the middle. But as far as modern TV, it kicks butt.
I'm going to approach it from a slightly different vantage point. I think that in terms of sort of, if you want to ascribe artistic quality to a sitcom, I would agree with you that it's more middle of the road. There was definitely some decent, not great, not by any means bad production values, consistent writing, good ensemble. It was a reliable sitcom that was consistently funny.
I feel like a good word for that would be workmanship or workman.
Possibly, yeah. Except for, arguably the 8th season, but even that was a good try. However, in my personal pantheon, it's become one of my most favorite shows, like most favorite sitcoms. I don't know about my most favorite shows, but definitely, if I'm feeling like I need to laugh, I don't want to invest in anything that I'm not sure about or don't think might be funny. That 70s show is one of a select few that I consistently revisit every so often. No matter how much I may tell myself, don't get sucked in, don't get addicted, don't binge 8 seasons in 2 weeks. It happens with that that 70s show because
Yeah.
it's funny and because it does hold up. And I think its test of time factor makes it better than many sitcoms. And better than I think people give it credit for.
No, I agree with that.
Maybe it is time for me to revisit it. It's been a couple years since I finished it.
Yeah, same here. Actually.
So, I mean, I've only watched it once in its entirety all the way through.
Okay.
You know, yes, I've caught episodes here and there on syndication, but, you know, I've only watched it once, technically. So maybe it's time for me to give it another shot when I'm in between, like maybe over the summer or something when new shows aren't really on.
I highly recommend it. I think you'll enjoy it.
Even more than I did the first time.
Yeah, it'll be nostalgia. You'll catch more of the jokes. And even sometimes the jokes that strike you the first time strike you even funnier the second time
or
the third time. Now, Michael, I would recommend that you just push on through to the end.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
I can do that.
If you liked the first 7 seasons as much as you appear to have, you just need to do it.
Yeah, the 8th season, it'll be weird.
Sure.
But you're walking in with low expectations.
Yeah.
So
and you know the end is worth it.
The end is worth it.
They
the end
land
is
the
worth
ending.
it.
Yes.
They stick it.
Very rarely is an awkward of a season as that 70s show had in season 8 worth getting to the end.
Yeah.
This one is worth getting to the end.
And it's really not as awkward as we're making it sound.
No,
I
It's just
understand.
awkward in comparison to seasons 1 through 6.
Yes.
There are still some big highlights. Leo, who actually, Tommy Chong was incarcerated for a period of that 70s
Yeah, I
show.
remember that.
Yes, he got out in time for the 8th season, and his
Uh-huh.
reappearance is super fun.
Yeah.
Hyde and his half-sister, Angie, they have kind of a
good-
playful
yep.
sibling relationship, which is fun.
I do vaguely remember her.
Yeah.
I must have seen at least one episode.
Yeah, they play
in that
season 8 in
season.
syndication.
She dates Kelso for a while.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which is hilarious because she's clearly so much better than him, but she's taken in by his affability.
Sure, yes, good.
That's a nice word for
Yes.
it. So, yeah, without lauding it too much, I know maybe even people are listening to this right now and thinking very skeptically that I'm crazy because that 70s show is maybe not something you would put in a top 10 or a top 5 of comedies, but if you're talking sheerly replay value and the ability to enjoy it again and again and again, there are few that match that 70s show.
No,
Agreed.
I can
Agreed.
agree with that, yes.
So
I think it would be if, like, TV Guide or something did a list of the greatest sitcoms of all time. It would be on that list.
I
somewhere,
know
yes.
a lot of, like, the Hollywood Reporter and a couple other entertainment magazines and things. They've done lists. I don't remember where that 70s show falls.
it wasn't on the Hollywood.
It wasn't on the
Reporters
Hollywood?
Oh,
okay,
no.
but...
Full House was.
Okay, never mind.
That's
Not
interesting
gonna
that
comment.
70s show wouldn't be on a list like that.
Not on the Hollywood Reporters. Now, that's not to say that there hasn't been other lists.
Like Time or AFI or whatever all the other ones are.
They haven't ranked it so far. I mean, I always do that research prior to moderating.
Sure.
They have not done. I would have mentioned it in the intro. It was nominated for a number of Emmys. It only won 1 for costume design.
Interesting.
Oh, wow. Huh.
And
So
it
not
was,
an awards darling.
No.
It was nominated for a number of People's Choice Awards or Teen Choice Awards. It won a few of those.
Yeah, because that was its target audience too.
So not critically
audience.
acclaimed, but audience favorite.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and that's kind of mirroring exactly what I said. It's no critical darling. It's not like artistically, wow, that 70s show. That is like impactful television that will stay with me until the ends of time, like the MASH finale or something.
Yeah.
We have a couple of CPU podcasters who are anxiously awaiting our MASH looking back. Oh boy.
I was raising my hand, by the way.
I am not
I was
one of
raising
them.
my hand
Wow.
because I have seen many episodes of that show, and I could totally be a part of that.
I have
panel.
never seen one episode
My
of MASH.
God.
I will be sitting that one out.
Nick and Sarah are silently judging you if they're listening to this.
Oh, I'm
and
sure.
Cheering you on, and you're probably going to be our looking back number
King.
1 panelist.
Yep.
You'll be rivaling her, but just in the looking backs. Well, that's cool though. So, with all that said, and everything we've talked about, we haven't really delved into a lot of episodes.
Yes.
Because that
not
70s show is...
specifics,
It's better discussed as a whole.
It's better discussed as a whole because I'm not going to lie to you, there's some repetition to it. That's part of what makes it so reliable, I would
Yes.
say.
Yeah.
But there's also repetition to things like Cheers and Friends and
Oh, yeah,
Frasier.
totally.
and
Oh,
some
I
of the
love
bigger
Frasier.
ones. Yeah, so if you like it, it should be good. But would you recommend that 70s show? Say you encountered somebody who has never watched a lick of it. Would you recommend this show to them? Why or why not?
They would need to be okay with the drug-related humor. I know people who are not okay with that. So I wouldn't recommend it to them, but for the vast majority of my friends who may have not seen it, I would say stop what you're doing and go turn on Netflix and start watching the show. You'll love it.
Yeah, I would totally recommend it. Yeah, it's definitely, it's great entertainment. And if you just want to laugh, you just want to sit and enjoy yourself.
It's easy to watch.
Exactly. If you want to see great actors at the top of their game and for their age, I'd be like, yeah, totally. Go search it out on Hulu or Netflix or wherever it is now.
Netflix.
Yeah, I could even see juniors and seniors in high school or early college kids.
Yeah.
I think you could recommend it to them too. Again, as there is drug humor, FYI, for those conservative parents out there who may be listening.
But they never overtly reference it.
Well, they can't because it was on network TV. They only alluded to it. They don't make specific.
Which is important to know.
It is important to know.
It was on network TV and it passed all the censors.
Yeah.
Because it was mainly hinted at.
Yeah, it was just the A's in the circle.
I remember I was reading something about the circle and how the implication was that when they were passing the joint, they were...
That's when the camera moved.
Exactly, yeah. And so it was almost like the
behind
joint
the
was
camera.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, I think it'd be even a good show for teenagers today to watch because there are, from a feminist perspective, Donna kicks butt. She's a good role model for younger girls. There's good relationship things in there.
Kelso's a good role model for what not to do.
Yes, he's a very good role model of what not to do. And Jackie's personal evolution could be considered a triumph by many people.
I think so, yeah.
And maybe a source of inspiration for those who look down on other people when they shouldn't.
On poor people, specifically poor people.
Yes.
Yeah.
She looks, and foreigners, she looks down on, she's a little racist.
There's that.
There's that.
Yeah, I think in general, yes.
I would also recommend it.
In 99% of situations.
Yeah. I don't know many people who would be offended by the drug-related humor, but I would still recommend it. You never know. I would still recommend it, and I would still say, they joke about smoking dope. So if you're not okay with that, don't watch it.
There's nothing harder than that. So.
No, there's nothing. They make jokes about ruining their brains and things, but they never do it on more than marijuana and beer. So it's basically
and the fun after effects that you get to watch as a viewer are kind of delightful.
They really are.
The kaleidoscopes and the switching floating heads and
the walls.
And the wallpaper. And there's some really fun visual effects.
They actually constructed that kitchen wall so that there were people making
behind
it
happen. Yeah.
Which is pretty fun. And Fez was always hungry.
Yep.
He was hungry even when he wasn't smoking. But he was the hungriest when he was.
And Kitty loved to feed him.
Yes. Well, he did live there for a time. He was married to Lori for a time.
Yeah.
Which
Lori? Original
Lori
or
replacement lived in the Foreman household for a period of time.
Except for Jackie.
Oh, no? Oh, I thought
Jackie lived with Donna.
No, Jackie was staying with Hyde for a period when her mom didn't come back from Mexico.
But she stayed with Donna, too.
She did.
Yeah.
She was homeless for a time.
Yeah.
She was staying with Hyde.
Yeah.
They found her, was like, get out. Then she went and stayed with Donna.
Yeah. After her parents lost the house and all that, I think. Yeah.
Donna never lived at the Foreman's.
No.
Because she lived right next door.
She lived next door. There's always the two characters who never live together.
Well, and Kelso never really lived there because he was down the street.
Yeah.
Basically.
So really only half the characters.
Half the characters did. Yeah. Pretty much. Is there anything else that you'd like to say or mention or wax on related to that 70s show that we have not already covered?
We haven't covered the catchphrases.
Let's cover the catchphrases and go!
Burn!
That's now a cultural thing.
It is a cultural thing.
Yep. My brother-in-law still says it.
Probably in the most inappropriate situations.
No, it's actually spot on. So he uses it correctly.
Now, good day. I said good day!
Yes, that. Yep.
I use that mostly with you, Kylie. With the very few times I use it. But that's a good one.
I use it a lot.
You do use it a lot, and I love it. It's very funny. And reasons.
Reasons. What other catchphrases?
Of course, dumbass.
Dumbass.
Is that really a catchphrase?
Yeah.
Well,
put my foot up your ass.
Yeah, that's more
that was
catchphrase.
Red.
Yeah.
Yeah, that really was his thing. It was any variation of where he could stick his foot
in your ass.
Yeah.
What else was there?
Donna. Jackie would always say Donna.
And call her a lumberjack.
She never called Kelso. She always called him
Michael.
Yeah.
Michael. Eric always went, hey, yes. That's right, my friend. Yes.
Hyde just kept talking about the car that runs on water.
And his distrust of the man.
Yep.
And Playmore Zeppelin.
And the El Camino.
The El Camino. Leo sold him that car.
He did.
That was really nice.
Isn't that how we met Leo?
No.
How did they meet Leo?
I think he was wasn't he just at the photo hut or something?
Yeah, I think
he was the guy who ran the
job at the
photo hut.
Yeah. It was the best job ever because, they got high and played the game of life. I got twins, man. Pretty much any time Tommy Chong speaks, I'm like,
And he would just say man at their everything,
but it worked. So that could be
pretty
his
much,
catchphrase is man.
And Katie didn't have a catchphrase.
No, she just laughed.
She's had her laugh, yeah.
With the face, you have to imagine it with the face, and that makes it all the better. And there wasn't a ton of catchphrases.
There was a few.
But that wasn't overly peppered with catchphrases. Every character didn't have a catchphrase, which was very, very refreshing.
They just had an idiom.
I liked that.
Yes.
What else? We talked about the adult circle. We talked about the circles. We talked about Jackie and the men, and Donna, and Eric, and Hyde. And his mom was played by Katie Seagal, which was awesome.
Oh, right. We did not mention that Hyde's mom was played by Katie Seagal, but she was.
She's like the quintessential modern TV mom.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
She's played Kaylee Cuoco's mom twice in 2 different shows.
That's right.
They do look similar.
Yeah. It's perfect casting. But that's for the Big Bang Theory podcast.
And the 8 simple rules for dating my
teenage daughter. I loved that show.
Rest in peace, John Ritter.
Oh.
And James Garner.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
we've lost a lot of good TV dads.
Oh. We should note that we're saying this the day after
Alan Thicke passed away.
So R.I.P. Alan Thicke. Someday we will do a Growing Pains looking back.
Yes, please.
For sure.
The Seavers.
That was like one of my mainstays.
Yeah.
That one was, the pre-Full House times.
Yep.
Oh yeah, totally.
It was. Mm-hmm. And it also starred a Cameron kid. Do you prefer original Laurie or the replacement Laurie?
Well, original.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, the original.
Replacement's just not good.
She was only in it for 2 or 3 episodes or something really.
So about a season.
Yeah. I liked original Laurie.
And then she just disappeared.
She just went away. Well, they even mentioned where's Laurie? They just did a throwaway line at one point to reference it.
Mm-hmm.
But original Laurie.
Now she passed away. Because she, I believe, overdosed.
Yeah. Unfortunately, original Laurie would have done.
Maybe so.
I
don't know that drugs was her problem.
Yeah, she was just kind of whoring around town.
There might have been other problems, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
She's kind of lucky she wasn't pregnant. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
With that said, though, what I would like to do at this time is thank Kristen and Michael for joining me for our Looking Back at That 70s Show podcast. As I mentioned in the introduction, we have several more new episodes coming down the pike, and I actually have this little spiel that I'm going to give to you right now that's not going to appear at the end of each of our podcast episodes because we're growing and we want to keep doing it. So I'd like to tell you that CPU is produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato. We hail from Grand Rapids, Michigan. If you like what you hear, take the time to rate us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play. That means give us some stars, man, or comment on YouTube so that we can spread the word more effectively. If you have suggestions on shows we might consider, contact us at our website, which is, of course, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, where you can also subscribe to us. You can send us an email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, or you can connect to us on social media. Of course, we've told you we're at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. And we're adding new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler or in the basement all the time. But as always, we have several more new episodes that will be coming down. I've listed them in our introduction. What we have currently and what we've recorded is available and searchable via the web. We're everywhere, so make sure you subscribe to us, to any one of our channels, to our social media accounts. Stay up on the new events and new episodes that we produce. Until the next time, That 70s Show is totally streamable on Netflix, man, so if you want to revisit it, find yourself that little red icon and get yourself a Netflix account and watch it. Until next time at CPU, keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned.